Howdy, howdy, howdy. Um, so I want to cover this book, The Blood Books, Volume 2 by Tanya Hoff. Now, I haven't read the first couple books in the series. This is, I guess, books 3 and 4, and I think it's the end of the series, to tell you the truth, because I see more here. So it may continue on. I'm assuming it does. It seems a little strange because of the way the book ends, but it's possible. I want to cover this before I completely forget it. And also, I'm probably not going to keep it. I've read a few. This is a vampire series. It's a little different take than most of them. I enjoyed, I think, Chelsea Quinn Yarborough's series, which was set throughout time. I thought that was particularly appealing. I read Interview with a Vampire and maybe others from that series. I don't know. They're okay. They didn't get me as excited. There was something that was close enough to a vampire, but wasn't. That kind of intrigued me. But this was obviously sparked because there was sort of a genre of these vampire type books coming out. I'm sure Twilight fits into that. I've never dealt with that at all. Where this has an interesting take. First of all, there's basically three main characters, and they're in kind of a love triangle type situation. One of them is a vampire. The one is a current police officer. The other is his former partner. It's well enough written in kind of a modern style. The couple of books that that were in this volume, I don't know. I guess I kind of didn't feel like that sort of, I don't know, the mystique, etc. of the vampire was properly was properly presented. But there was a fair amount of realism, especially in the female character. The male characters, I felt, were less primary, and that kind of makes sense when you have a female author. Just like when you have a male author, you probably aren't as in touch with describing how the with how somebody of a different gender, to use the term, because here we're really looking more at a gender situation. What can I say about it? I mean, other than it's kind of it's reasonably well written in that modern style. The stories were okay. I didn't feel like there were great shocks in the first one. The second one had some real gotchas in it, and I kind of liked it for that. I don't want to go too much into that. Much of what was in there was predictable. In the first one, it was almost entirely so. And that'll be like the third and fourth stories in the series, for whatever it's worth. But yeah, I felt like I felt very similar to how I would if I was reading, a modern spy thriller or something like that. And that's why it's going to go into the pile that heads out rather than into the, hey, I really should reread this. Once upon a time, I would have kept it, just like once upon a time, certain games that that I've played recently, I would totally play more times. But right now, unlike other times in my life, I have essentially infinite supply of books because people just put them out in these little free libraries. And I feel like, one, I shouldn't just stock them up. And two, I should, well, one, I shouldn't stock them up. I should be refreshing those libraries to what extent I can. Now, I have this hoarder attitude to me, and if I get any enjoyment out of a book, and I got some out of this, I get some out of almost everything that I do pass on. But it's a much more difficult bar to say I want to keep a book. I did find that there was something intriguing about the handling of the love triangle, essentially, and it's a true love triangle. It's not like a triad or anything like that. Although a friendship does start to form, or something, not a friendship, but a mutual respect does seem to form between the two male characters. And the interesting thing is, the vampire also seems to have bisexual tendencies. Maybe more as a result of his feeding than anything else. Just improving his chances of being able to feed, although he seems to have standards there. They're not really laid out. Where does it kind of fit into the genre? Again, like I said, it's kind of it's kind of like a mystery type storylines in each case. It's got the police work kind of working into supernatural or semi-supernatural perps, if you want. Excuse me, my poor lungs. I went out dancing, and that sort of, I was fine. I was not well on my way there. I was not well before I went there. But the act of dancing is sort of this weird magical thing for me, and I was completely cured while dancing. It's like there's no way I could expend that kind of energy even when doing just about anything else. Like I couldn't go and expend that kind of energy running. I think it's about a half marathon's worth of effort when I go dancing. I don't know, because now I'm so drunk, but once upon a time I think it was. Like when I used to go dancing, outside or whatever. It's about the same amount of time that I'm spending moving, and I feel like although I'm not moving constantly, when I am moving, I'm moving more emphatically than I would if I were running a marathon, which I wouldn't be running it, I'd be jogging it, and walking it probably too. But there's just no way that I could expend that kind of effort on a sustain. Anyway, I don't know where I'm getting, except to excuse my cough. Yeah, again, it's an amusing diversion to read something like this. I like to read. This was enough that, most books that I kind of like, when they talk about it's a real page turner and stuff like that, yeah, that's almost anything I like. If I'm taking enjoyment, with the exception of things like Faulkner or something, where I'm into the language more than I am into just, hey, what's happening with the story. So, I'm laying in my beanbag or whatever and thinking I'll get to bed early and read some and take a nap or whatever, and I just end up fucking, reading most of the book in one sitting or whatever. Not true. Most of one of the books in one sitting. But yeah, the intriguing thing is sort of this interaction between, a woman who basically can't choose between her two lovers, as it were. And that's not the exciting part of the story. The exciting part of the story is, solving this mystery or whatever it is, mystery crime combination. And it's not all that mysterious in either case. You kind of, first of all, it's not presented as a mystery. It's a mystery for the main characters, but you also see into the villain at the same time, and you get their view, and you get to, mesh it all together. And there might be some key points that aren't obvious to you when the story starts, but they continue on. There's, at least in the first of the stories in here, what seems to be something that's going to be a continuing aspect that I expect to show up again, that carries over into it. And so, it's clearly set up to make somebody who enjoys it keep buying it or whatever. Would I pick up another if I found another one of the series, would I pick it up? Probably. I also wouldn't keep it. But, it was intriguing enough. It has enough of that supernatural, mystical type stuff in it that it is kind of cool, but it didn't feel like it went into the aspects that I would most be intrigued by. Like most vampire stories that I'm familiar with, the vampires, well, yeah, I guess you could say plural, but very, very lightly. The vampire is basically a solo hunter, and they can't interact with each other. They have their own territory, and there can't be another vampire in it, which takes away one of so the most intriguing thing in sort of the vampire mythos that I've run into was sort of the magical, not magical, but the societal aspects of vampire society in the role-playing game, which I really, really like. That doesn't follow sort of, whatever kind of normal normal fiction about vampires tends to have. Again, I'm not sure what the hell is up with Twilight or Buffy for that matter. I watched a little bit of it, but apparently there's vampires who interact with each other there to some extent. But when you look at Dracula, he's a loner. When you look at the Yarborough books, those vampires do interact and do have meetings with one another, but they're they're still very much loners. They just, have friendships with other vampires and deal with them every now and then. And I think similarly with the Interview with a Vampire, although there may be a few more there. I really liked the way the game it generated this whole new society and rules within it and everything that made it much more intriguing to me than most of these stories. The actual vampire in this seems to be less supernatural than most, and in fact, they start in the second part of this book, the fourth book. The author starts going into kind of maybe some scientific hand-waving about what's going on there because blood samples are taken and whatnot. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to say. I don't know why I do these. I don't know that they're of any value to anyone. I feel like I should touch on what's going on in not sure why. Not sure why at all. Anyway, cheers.